Is this your, I don't know, living room, office space?
Basement/man cave. Here, I'll give you a quick look here. There's a little R2 and the stormtrooper, and I'll give you a quick tour.
I'm kind of now. I'm recording this. If anybody wants to know what Crowbar's man cave looks like, I guess we can show it off here. Wow, this is so you're big Star Wars,
big time, and there's big Vader there.
Whoa, okay,
which is kind of cool.
Vader, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so that's the
wow.
Got to be tidied up in here, but that's my happy place here.
It's awesome. I love it, man. I have like a man cave aesthetic in my office as well.
Yeah.
You know, Nerf guns and wrestling action figures and such.
This is the man cave / movie room where we watch like family movies. You know, we'll get together, we'll watch it on the big screen, and then we exercise, do cardio down here too. So.
Oh, sure. Yeah. You don't want to wind up looking like Jabba the Hutt.
No, you do not. Got to keep that cardio strong in this day and age.
Yeah, especially. I mean, as you have the glaring example of Han Solo behind you there, you know.
Don't want to end up like that.
Yeah, no. All right. Well, hey, I got about 20-ish minutes put to the side here, Crowbar. Does that work for you?
That's fine. If you need more, we're cool. You know, I'm open now, so I'm good. I'm home.
All right, wonderful. Well, let's dive on in, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, the tour we just saw. Of course, the person we're talking to right now, it is WWE, ECW, WCW, Impact, and now AEW veteran Crowbar. Crowbar, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Nick. What's going on?
This is going on right now. You know, the interview. That's
cool. That's always good. Interviews are good.
Interviews are great. I was looking on your timeline before we started, and I listed off all those companies. I saw that you shared that out. There's only like 6 wrestlers, I guess, that have appeared for all of those different promotions that I just listed, and you're one of them. That's awesome.
Yes, that's real cool. Yep.
So
I believe me and Christopher Daniels and CM Punk are the only 3 of the 6 that have actually wrestled though for all those companies.
Man, dude, that's wild. So you've worked for everybody. So of all the major promotions and companies you work for, do you have a favorite or no?
Well, it's most recent and closest to my heart would be AEW. Of course, it's great. It was unexpected in 2021. You know, although I always strive to stay in shape, to be game ready and stuff like that. You know, you never know what's going to pop up, and that's just fresh, and it was a lot of fun, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah, of course, dude. That's awesome, man. So yeah, let's talk about this. So Janela, you have a lot of history with Joey, don't you? Can you let everybody kind of know the 10,000-foot look at what is the history between Crowbar and Joey Janela leading into this match here?
I made a post like last week sometime. In 2014, I wrestled Joey for the first time for GCW in Hasbrook Heights, New Jersey. And I had been off like, no joke, 18 months or so. I've wrestled since WCW the whole time. I love wrestling. I enjoy wrestling. I always say back in the day when I broke in, it's not fashionable to profess how much you enjoy this business. I love this business. So, WCW ends, TNA doesn't quite work out, and I'm faced with the adult decision. Okay, I have to go to becoming a full-time physical therapist. I'll be a part-time wrestler or weekend wrestler because I just friggin' love it. You know, not being snarky, don't need to do it, love doing it. So since WCW, there were times when I would maybe wrestle once or twice a month, and there were times when I was establishing my business. You know, when we had 2 young babies, where I would take 4, 6, 8 months off, sometimes a year here or there. So in 2014, I hadn't wrestled in a long time, and Ricky Otazu, a local promoter, gave me a call. He said, what do you think of this guy? And he sent me Joey's tape. And I go, wow, this guy's really, really great. And at that time, I was kind of hot and cold. Am I going to stop doing this? Do I have time to stay in shape? You know, I love wrestling, but it's not really fitting into my whole schedule with having a business and being a dad and being a husband. And I saw the video. I go, I want to work with this guy. This guy looks like he'd be a lot of fun. Maybe that'll be the last match there. Maybe not. But, if so, that I could have one hell of a match before I get out. We have this match in 2014, and really great time. We have great chemistry. We kill each other. The crowd is happy, and they bring us back a second time. And since then we've probably worked maybe 6 or 7 times. And during that time was where Joey blew out his knee, and he rehabbed by me probably 6 to 8 months or so at my facility.
Yeah, for sure. And so, like, yeah, you and Joey, a couple of years now together. And, like, obviously he's thankful to you for the work you helped him with on his knee there and enjoyed working with you on the indies and stuff. So when it comes time for AEW, is this something where, like, Tony was a big Crowbar fan, or Joey's in the back, like, I really want to have a match in Philly with Crowbar? Like, how does this all kind of come about? Like, what was the impetus here?
Well, COVID hits, and I'm still actively wrestling a lot. Not a lot, but a lot for me, 2-3 times a month. And then suddenly I can't wrestle anymore. There are shows going on in and out of state here or there. I also work in healthcare, and I live in New Jersey. So if I were to go out of state somewhere to wrestle where a lot of these shows were going on, I would have to quarantine for 2 weeks and all the other COVID precautions. So I essentially, for my business, for my livelihood, I had to stop wrestling because of the guidelines and especially the New Jersey quarantine guidelines and all that type of stuff. So I had to find some way to be involved in wrestling, and I started doing these online promos, very snarky, very elitist type character that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, especially like the new school type guy. So I did that for about a year. I popped back up in April for the Super 8 with like literally 4 hours notice for the ECWA. And throughout the pandemic, I trained hard. I have a full gym at my facility, at my physical therapy facility. I did a lot of I did a lot of cardio. I made sure that I stayed in shape during that time. So Super 8 comes, have a nice showing there. About a month and a half later or so, I have a show for JCW, which is under the GCW banner there. And I took those matches. I took those clips. I sent them to QT, and unbeknownst to me, for a while, Joey Janela had been requesting that we work sometime there. So I guess one thing combined with the other kind of came through, and Joey putting in the word and me showing that I was still physically able to do the things I like to do led to 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Well, about a week or so ago, I guess.
Yeah.
From when we're recording here right now. Dude, that's so awesome, man. Like, it's just a really fun story, and you're getting to do it in Philly and with people you like, right?
Yes.
And I would imagine that all feels hella fulfilling, but you're also walking in to the AEW space and locker room. You've really never been in that environment. How was it, A? But like, B, like, you've, like we said, worked with all these companies. There's a lot of names back there of people that you've also worked with. Was there anybody you were looking forward to, like, catching up with or seeing or anything like that when you showed up at AEW?
I've had a few interviews since, and everybody asks everybody's heard about how great the locker room. I'm kind of loose now. I'm late in life. I have a family. I've done X, Y, and Z. Traditionally, my least favorite part of every going into a new place wrestling wise is meeting new people. I grew up, I was always kind of a recluse, socially awkward, not that comfortable of a person. And when you first go into a wrestling locker room, etiquette wise, that's a big deal. So for Chris Ford, the socially awkward kid from Rutherford, New Jersey, who is very overweight, had a terrible speech impediment, I definitely have ADD, ADHD, all that type of stuff. Whenever I would go into a locker room with people that I didn't know, it was a very uneasy feeling, an uneasy situation. And you go up and you shake your hands, you try your best to introduce yourself to everybody. Inevitably, there's somebody you should introduce yourself to, but you see they're having a conversation with somebody. Now, do you stop the conversation and say, hey, how are you? Or do you wait till they stop? And if you wait till they stop and then they walk on, are you now seen as snubbing them, that you didn't say hello. There's this whole crazy dynamic that plays worse into a person like mine's psyche when you go into a locker room. And from independent shows to ECW to WCW to WWE, it's a very important scenario, and it was always, social situations have always traditionally been very awkward for me as a person, for Chris Ford. So I go in there, and there's some people that I know. There are the situations where guys are having conversations that seem like important conversations, but overall, this locker room was by far the most welcoming, most relaxed, most easygoing I've ever been a part of. I introduced myself to a lot of people. A lot of people introduced themselves to me. They were familiar with my work as Crowbar and as Devin Storm going way, way back. It was a very welcoming locker room for me right now. But I think back, it would have especially been a super welcoming locker room for 17 and 18-year-old Chris Ford way back when. Just a fantastic vibe, fantastic atmosphere. There were guys like, I like to say I have a foot in the old school, a foot in the new school. That being, I was brought up and trained old school style. I have a lot of the old school values. But when it came to, I'm not old school wrestling culture wise. When I would be a part of the independents, ECW, WCW, I was never the kind of guy that would go out, tear things up, and be a complete nut. I'd go out once in a while. I would have a meal, have some beers, and that was it. But not that often. I was probably the first guy to bring my video game system on the road. I was probably the first guy to bring school books on the road.
You really bond with this generation.
Yeah,
I know that the locker rooms of WCW and WWF were in the late 90s or mid to late 90s. Were not necessarily, let's say, friendly to that kind of culture. Let
me put it this way. I was in ECW. I was a full-time student, bringing my game console on the road and bringing my school books into the locker room so I could get done what I had to get done. How do you think that fit in culturally there?
I've heard some pretty wild stories about the ECW guys, and I don't really feel like a lot of them were probably sitting around reading, medical books and I don't know about video games. I guess video games are still pretty new at that point. So
yeah, but weird experience at the time. Tough experience. Definitely did not fit in to the culture, but it was a great learning experience that made me a better, stronger person in and out of wrestling, and it helped prepare me for a lot of things that would come on later on in life in general.
Yeah. Are you happy to see the direction that the locker room and backstage culture for wrestling is headed right now? Because it seems like you were a little ahead of the curve of where we're at right now.
Absolutely. For years, I would I'd say for a good part of the past 18 to 20 years after WCW, love wrestling. As I said, I freely profess that. I am the biggest fan going. I would show up to shows. If they were close to home, I would often show up dressed. I would go do my match. If it was close enough to home, I would just leave in my tights and I would go home. I had no idea of the cultural part of pro wrestling or what was going on or how things were. And for many, many years, people asked me, if your son or if your daughter wanted to be a part of the business, would you let them? I go, absolutely not. Hell no. Because all I knew was their prior culture. Now that I've been out there more, I say for the past, like 6 months, and I see what's going on and I'm more aware of what's going on. If somebody asked me, would you be okay if your son or daughter got involved with wrestling? Now I would honestly say yes. The culture has changed so much that, still probably wouldn't be my first choice for them. But I would be way, way, way more okay with them doing it now. Whereas 20 years ago, there's no way in hell I'm ever going to hear this. So it's definitely changed for the better. Much better.
Okay, fair enough.
In my opinion, which means nothing.
So obviously there's the man responsible for the AEW locker room and all that. That's Tony Khan. Did you have a chance at all to talk with Tony before the match? Did he give you an ideas of like kind of what he wanted you to do or anything like that? I don't know.
He was rushing around quite a bit, with the night of a show. That's a really big night. I got to say hi. I thanked him for having me. He thanked me for coming there, and that was pretty much the extent of it. It was pretty cool. We got most of our match directions through Joey, and me and Joey being very familiar with each other, we were able to kind of throw our heads together and get the match done.
It was a really fun match, right?
Yes.
Like I went back and I watched it again today just so I'd have it fresh on my mind. And the steel chair suplex spot,
Crowbar original.
That is a really easy way to kill somebody. If done in the wrong way, that was really fun to watch. I just want to say that. Yeah,
I've been doing that, and that move has gotten such a great reaction and such awesome feedback. I've been doing that move for probably 20 years. Astonished it hasn't been ripped off yet.
I thought, I was like, I think I've seen this, but I've not seen this recently. Yeah, for sure.
Probably the first main show I did it on was in the steel cage for WWWA against Sabu, and I've used it regularly since then on independent shows here and there, but it's never really been on like a big major show like that. So for 20 years it's been mine. I'm sure somebody's gonna rip it off now, but be safe, have fun with it.
Okay, great, wonderful. Yeah, no, don't kill nobody. And yeah, you got to reunite with fellow Philly hardcore legend Blue Meanie. What was
Absolutely.
It
like? It was awesome.
Yeah.
I love Brian, great guy. We've known each other for so many years. We've never worked with each other, I don't think, in any capacity. So
I didn't think so either. I saw that. Yeah. I was like, oh, that's really cool, but I don't know where this friendship came from, So
and we looked at it, if it's a one-off, great, but if not, you look at it, there's something weird there that kind of works. Maybe two guys that are complete opposites. My character that I do in the promos being very kind of serious and deadpan humor, and then you have with the meanie that's completely nuts. I don't know, something there works. Maybe the hell knows.
So maybe we could see some more meanie Crowbar out on the indies or something like that around the Philly area. Sure. Yeah. All right. Awesome. So
I'd love to do it.
I thought it was a great pairing. I really just enjoyed a lot of the aspects of the match. I mean, knowing your history with Joey, kind of knowing your history with the area, it's not quite Jersey, but still that East Coast area over there, and Philly, obviously, with ECW. It's just there was a lot of things going on in that match that I thought was really fun to watch.
Yeah.
So after it's over and you get backstage, what's the reaction like? What was the reaction to the bout that you guys put together?
A lot of the talent said that thing with the chair you did. That was one of and I've never seen that. And my reaction was, I've been doing that for 20 years, just totally under the radar. Was a fun match. Everybody seemed to like it. There was a lot of action. The show was going over when they were taping, so we had more of a structured story to get to the finish, but they really wanted us to end the match where it was, so it was a kind of abrupt Death Valley driver,
right?
We did have more of a story there, so maybe one day we'll see. But overall the reaction was good. It's very flattering, the comments that I get, like, how do you still do this? How do you still move like this? Whatever. I'm 47 years old, so hearing that kind of stuff is great. And I attribute a lot of that to, we all get injuries over the years, and just having the physical therapy background. I'm a physical therapist for 23 years of those 30 years. And I always bring up an example, like when a guy has back pain, they mess their back up. Most gym guys, and I'm not saying that negatively, but most people that are gym guys know that your abdominals support your back. Very, very, very often you may bulge a disc doing stuff that we do in that ring. And if what a lot of guys first do is they go into the gym and they train the hell of their abs. They start doing sit-ups, crunches, all this flexion. that strengthens your abs, but it bulges the disc more. That forward flexion bulges the disc more. So I've been able to successfully manage, handle, and heal a lot of my injuries right from the get-go just by the background, where others may try to fix it themselves without having the background and actually doing more harm than good. It's really paid off huge.
I feel like you and DDP would be a really interesting pair of people to listen to about how to handle injuries and things like that.
We've been trying to set it up forever. I've been doing DDPY since it was YRG when it first came out. It was called Yoga for Regular Guys and Gals. I love it. It's part of my regular regimen. We're trying to figure out how I could get down there and do something with him. Just because I use, if a patient comes in for physical therapy, they don't have time to do a whole DDPY program, but there are aspects of the DDPY that I'll take out and I'll use to treat certain pathologies in physical therapy. So it has a lot of implications that cross over into my realm, and I think it's a great program.
I agree. I use it too. I need to be more regular with it. It's usually when like something starts to hurt, I'm like, oh, you got to start doing yoga again, and then I feel better, and then I stop. And so
absolutely,
I need to be better about it. So this is a really interesting time. Like it's really cool to get your perspective, having worked for all of like the major companies of the last 25 years. This is a very obviously special, historic time for professional wrestling. Things got a little bit hot this past Friday night. When Rampage and SmackDown decided to share a little bit of space. Tony Khan has said a lot of things publicly. It's just I don't know how you feel about how hot everything has gotten with pro wrestling here in the past, I'd say year and a half, but really just past couple months, since
absolutely.
Punk has come back into the game,
Well, hot is always good, better than cold. It means people are talking about what's going on. I think what people don't realize, there are similarities, but there's distinct differences between WCW acquiring all that talent and then building an empire, and AEW acquiring all this talent and building an empire. When WCW came to an end, Ted Turner had to answer to AOL Time Warner. There were other people in that merger. As much as he wanted to hold on to WCW, if he did, there's no way that it was going to happen. There were too many other influences. I could say, no, we can't have this. It's gone. This is Tony Khan's product. He's a huge wrestling fan. He's spending his money. Nobody's going to tell him what he can or can't do. So I'm not sure. I have no idea what it's like to have that kind of a budget as a business person. But what I do know is, being an independent business owner, you don't have to listen to other people, and you could do what you want. And he's creating a controversy. There's confidence there, and I like confidence. When I first opened up my physical therapy facility, to draw parallels here, there were a lot of big box physical therapy offices around us. I'm not going to say names, but big, regional or countrywide places. And they said, you'll never make it. I had a great team of physical therapists that I had worked with for years. We know our stuff. We know not just physical therapy, but we know customer service. People come in and it's not that drab, but that medical environment where it's very, very blasé. We have a very homey environment. So we do physical therapy. We get you better, but we make you, we don't treat you like a number. And year after year after year, big box physical therapy offices have come in and they've gone, and we've only gotten stronger and we've grown more and more. And so if you know your product, and Tony Khan has said he knows wrestling a whole lot more than Ted Turner does, and I think he's right. He's a huge fan. And if you have those funds, if you have that backing, you have the potential to upseat, that at the top of the game, which was WWE for years and years and years and years. And I think he's going to do it. And if he wants to talk some shit, so be it. I think it's great.
So you believe in the long run. We're not saying like a year from now or maybe even 5 years from now, but you think in the long run, there's a good chance Tony Khan and AEW will unseat WWE as the definitive top pro wrestling brand in the space. Is that your prediction? Is that what you're saying?
I think the potential is there. I think it will happen. Me personally, I think at the very, very least, you're going to once again have two very, very big, well-known wrestling groups that are household names that are killing in merch. And I think you're going to see people going back and forth and back and forth. And the dynamic that I'm waiting for, me personally, Chris Ford, the wrestling fan.
Yeah.
One of the things that made Monday nights fun was when WCW would lose somebody and they would go over to WWE. WWE would lose somebody, they would go to WCW. Right now, AEW is just signing guys on it. They're acquiring guys. They've yet to let somebody go that has gone away to the other side. It's going to happen eventually. And when it starts going back and forth, I think you're going to see stuff. I think people's interest will be piqued even more. And this thing is going to get even bigger. That's, for me, watching as a fan, was not knowing who was going to show up on whose show and how they were going to be used once they got there. Were they going to throw the belt in the garbage can like Medusa did? There's so much stuff that you want to see. So that's one aspect of the Monday Night Wars that I'm actually anxious to see how it plays out. There's been talent going one way right now. When it starts going like this, I think things are going to get really interesting.
I echo that full-throatedly. I have often thought, because a lot of people, and I don't want to go too down this rabbit hole because I don't want to talk about anybody losing or jumping their jobs, because I know a lot of people are very, very happy at AEW right now.
Sure.
A lot of people when the company started, it was 3-year contracts. A lot of them signed 3 to 5 year deals. Those 3-year contracts are going to come up here on the 3-year anniversary of AEW, and for the first time, we're going to see who increased their profile and their negotiating power at AEW, and what's on the other side from. I mean, it's crazy not to think about a Sammy Guevara or a MJF or a Darby Allin or even a Joey Janela. What does their negotiating power look like with WWE on the other side of this? I'm as fascinated by that as you are, 100%.
We're also forgetting this now. Tony Khan has done tremendous for Impact. People are more aware of Impact Wrestling. They're more aware of the NWA. So it also creates scenarios. I have no idea if these are going on or not, but say maybe they have a talent that they maybe just don't have room for. They don't have room for right now. Maybe we have room here or there. Can we split let their payout with Impact? Can we split it with the NWA? So they don't have to go to WWE. Is that talent burnt out and says, I only want to work once a month for the NWA or something like that? I mean, there's the two, but now Tony Khan has put a spotlight on these other smaller groups that are now also options for talent to go to. So it creates a number of scenarios, in my opinion, being a business person, that say hypothetically, just give me a name. I don't want to arbitrarily pick somebody. Just give me a talent.
Luchasaurus,
we have nothing for him creatively in a year from now. He's kind of burnt out. We don't want him to go to WWE, but maybe he'll go to Impact for a couple months here. Then he'll go to the NWA, and maybe they'll be up for sharing the payroll. And I don't know. It creates situations where, it's not just AEW and WWE. Maybe he goes and he puts some time in at Impact at the NWA. Maybe he does some indies. GCW is doing some great stuff. I mean, so that's an option as well. There's Japan. So it makes for some really interesting situations.
Do you think that WWE needs to change anything they're doing right now to kind of counter the momentum of AEW? Like, what if you were them? Like, what advice, or you were with them? Like, what advice would you be giving to them right now? I guess.
I don't know what their business plan is. I have an idea as a business person. It looks like AEW is an alternative. It's for older fans. You know, we have more adult storylines. We have cursing. It's more violent. It's more cool. It's, for me, when I watch AEW, it's what ECW could have been with money behind it. That's what I see as a fan. WWE seems like they've toned things down. Are they going more to the family crowd? Are they going more for Mr. and Mrs. Smith that want to introduce their 6-year-old or 7-year-old to wrestling, but they don't want the cursing and the language? But those kids are going to buy a lot of toys and a lot of shirts and a lot of this. Is that their business plan? If that's their goal, is to market to that age group, that's not wrong either. I see it really as two different. They're always going to be compared to who's doing what in ratings, but I see two very different target groups as far as fan base goes. And I think you're going to see more and more of a split with that. I think you're going to see a more defining line between what AEW offers and what WWE offers. And I could be wrong, but that's just, I see it as two very, very different products right now.
Yeah. Well, you worked for Vince 97 to 99, I believe. Devon Storm, right? And
Yes.
you know, that was a lot of people. Like, I remember Crowbar, right? I think maybe just because there was more meat to Crowbar, maybe than Devon Storm, right? Like, I remember you as Crowbar, but like, you know, when you were working for Vince, that's still a really hot. I mean, that was the peak of the peak, right? 97, 99, when you were working for WWF. Like, what was it like to be around Vince at that time period? Like, I don't know how close or what you observed, kind of just being around a guy like that when he's in the trenches, you know?
I was a young guy still in college and couldn't believe I was in the WWF locker room. So I just kind of, and also with a very socially awkward background, it was overwhelming to say the least. I would see Vince passing in the hallways. It was always hey, how are you? Thank you for, for having me, yada, yada. There was one instance when Road Dogg got hurt. I was able to wrap up his hip because of my physical therapy training, and I got to thank you for that, which was cool. And that actually, not a lot of people know. There were talks when I was doing the light heavyweight stuff that after I graduated physical therapy school, there were talks where I would be on the road physical therapist. At that time, they had no trainer, no therapist, no nothing at that time, and where I would hold a dual spot of therapist and preliminary card wrestler, and that just never materialized. It went back and forth and back and forth. I would assume that being the big company that they were, they probably didn't want to take a risk on a brand new physical therapist. Experience means a lot, not just in wrestling, but in physical therapy as well. And I kind of think that that's kind of what squashed that deal.
I gotcha. All right. Well, hey, Crowbar, I want to thank you so much for talking to me about your latest big exploit in the world of professional wrestling. Would love to have you back, of course, down the road, as we've
absolutely
had before. But for now, where do you want to send people to support you? Anything you want to plug here to wrap up the interview today?
I'm pretty much just on Twitter. Like I said, I have my business. I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I opened up an Instagram. I'm never on it. I'm just not on it. So on Twitter at WCW Crowbar. I actually just opened up my first merch ever at Pro Wrestling Tees. It's my cool tattoo on a shirt and video messages. They're in true modern Crowbar form. Black and white music, yada, yada, yada. So that's where you can find me. Keep an eye out, and we'll see what happens.